for someone who has worked at BCG, then worked at a startup, why did it make sense for you to go for an MBA? And why foreign MBA and not Indian MBA?
There's one student, the deferred MBA, who got in 1 year before me. When I was going, I texted him, "Hey, bro, are you coming this year?" He said he's dropped the admit. He got a role in a different investing firm and he realized that the MBA is not going to help him in getting a better role.
Wow.
We didn't even know that. I thought he was becoming a good friend of mine. All of these things can be done without MBA. Like, you can build a network, you can travel, you can meet new people, you read a good book. Even at Airbnb, people used to ask me, "Oh, how was it working in BCG India?"
Yeah.
So I think we feel that only these guys get into top schools. That's not true. Being a non-engineer and seeing the sort of opportunities in India, I felt that to work at a Google, Apple, Netflix, the roles are few and far in between for a guy who wants to do something like strategy at Google. That role just doesn't exist.
People go to MBA schools for finding their life partners, and
yeah.
a lot of people like end up breaking up with their prior girlfriends or boyfriends because of something called turkey drop. Do you think people find their life partners there? Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. MBA is something you would have heard as a student, as a professional, and अगर आपको 3-4 साल भी हो चुके हैं काम करते करते, this would be a big question in your life. MBA करना चाहिए, नहीं करना चाहिए, Indian MBA करना चाहिए, foreign MBA करना चाहिए, कितना cost आता है MBA करने में, and how is life in Indian MBA versus foreign MBA? All of these questions today we are going to answer in our conversation with my friend Shubham Pansari. He is a student at Columbia Business School in New York. Prior to that, he has worked as a management consultant in BCG and a startup called Mosaic Wellness. So Shubham, welcome to my channel. Tell me, how is your long paid vacation going on in New York?
Thank you for the introduction. It's great to be here. I'm glad किसी ने मेरे को finally पूछा कि how is my MBA going. मैं तरस गया हूँ कि लोग मेरे को पूछे ये. But ever since I've come back to India, they're just saying ki, why are you back already? You know, you keep coming back every 6 months for 1 month at a time. But it's been a really good experience. I think the last 1 year, like I was thinking about this for our podcast. Like, it's given me so much confidence personally and professionally, which I feel like I've never really had in my life. Maybe the last time I had it was in high school. But uske baad, now is when I feel it. And I would not call it a luxury vacation, by the way.
Okay.
If luxury for you is cooking and cleaning your house every day, real luxury is living in India like a king.
I'm calling it luxury because you must be spending what, $270,000 for your whole MBA and you have already completed a year, right? So I'm just thinking out loud for someone who has worked at BCG, then worked at a startup. Why did it make sense for you to go for an MBA? And of course, why foreign MBA and not Indian MBA? Did you apply for an Indian MBA? And did you get any admits? How all of it happened?
Well, I think it's a very pertinent question because especially today with all the news we read about MBA grads not getting jobs. So I think it's a totally fair question. Maybe I can tell you a little bit about my journey, how it started. So I actually got the admit like 4 years ago.
Wow.
So I did this thing called deferred MBA, where you apply in your final year of college and
Okay.
you get a seat in your school, and then you can decide to go between 2 to 5 years after your undergrad. So मैंने ये decision काफ़ी पहले ले लिया था to apply, and I got in. And I applied to a bunch of schools. So all the top US schools offer this, and also ISB offers it. So I got into ISB, Columbia, and Yale. And then I think after that it was a bit of a no-brainer. You know, once I got into Columbia, I read more about it. I was so excited that it almost became like a, you know, like a North Star set for me that ये तो होने ही वाला है. I have
Right.
2, 3, or 4 years before which I can go for it. And I know you asked like a bunch of questions like India
So
University.
just a clarifying question here. You said you got this admit 4 years back.
Yeah.
So you had that option कि एक साल बाद भी you can go for this Columbia MBA after 2 years as well, or was there any criteria that you have to wait for certain years in order to go for that MBA?
You have to work for a minimum of 2 years and a maximum of 5. बट
ओके।
यूजुअली जब आप 2 साल बाद बोलते हो कि मेरे को आना है,
हाँ।
वो बोलते हैं कि थोड़ा थम जा, you know, at least work
ओके।
for 1 more year. So
Hmm.
usually you go in 3 years, but the idea remains the same. You know that they identify high potential students in undergrad.
ओके।
Usually you have an offer in hand, right? A job offer in hand when you're applying for the school. They can fairly predict your trajectory. कि ये
Hmm.
like it's very predictable कि क्या करेगा, you know, next 3-4 years,
Hmm.
and then you can join the program. So I was lucky that I actually applied abroad in undergrad for my undergrad, but I did not get into the schools that I wanted to.
ओके।
So uh, that long story there, I won't go into that. But then when I joined Xavier's in Bombay, from my very first year, I was really passionate about applying for this deferred MBA. Like I did
ओके।
some research and found
Hmm.
about it. It was not so popular back then.
Hmm.
Even now, I don't think everybody knows about it.
Right.
And I did that. I gave my exam early, and like I was
Hmm.
always in that zone. And at that time, you're not thinking too much, you know, ki, why do you want to do it? Why do you not want to do
You
it?
haven't seen the world, so you are
Yeah,
like, yeah, it sounds great.
yeah,
There is no downside to it, so let's just go for
exactly.
it.
That's a great point. Like, there's no downside to
Right.
doing this,
Hmm.
except you have to, of course, work hard and let go of a few things. But otherwise, so I didn't think too much about it. And if I can anticipate from your tone, you know, the question, कि ये क्या कर रहा है? You know, why are you paying so much for this degree? So I think you're right. For different sorts of people, like I would like to ask you, I know that the last time we spoke, you were also considering it. I know that you were like looking at GMAT, you spoke to a lot of people, you did your research, but now I feel like you've made a decision, at least
Yeah.
for now, that you don't want to do it. So I'm curious, like, what was your takeaway?
So, taking a step back, right?
Huh,
You made this decision when you hadn't seen the world,
huh,
as in, like, you just came out of your undergrad.
huh,
So you thought, okay, let's just get this admit.
yeah,
कुछ नहीं हुआ तो 3-4 साल बाद we'll just go for it. And it was
yeah,
such a good thing to have as a backup.
yeah,
For me, making this decision at this point of time, when I have worked with BCG after becoming CA for 1.5 year, then into private equity for next 2 years, so
huh,
like 3.5 year of post qualification experience,
hmm,
it is a it is a big decision because the cost you incurred here, you will incur
hmm,
here. For
right,
example, I was just comparing all the schools, and the average cost that you are going to incur would be 2 to 3 crores for an entire MBA.
right,
And then you calculate ROI. So, for someone who wants to stay abroad or wants to settle abroad, maybe it makes sense for them.
yeah,
But I'm already into private equity, which is like one of the greatest jobs you can get. Even engineers are going there, CAs are going there. It's well paid, it's well respected, and the kind of work you do is also great. It's interesting.
hmm,
So for me, I was in a dilemma, and I've seen a lot of people in my office and in the same
okay,
industry. They go for an MBA, they come back to India, and they start working at the same company.
right,
So that to me was very, I don't know, like, why are they even doing it?
yeah,
I have spoken to 3-4 people. For example, someone was working at Kedara.
huh,
He went for Harvard, and
huh,
he's so sure that he's going to come back to Kedara.
okay,
And the similar stories at Warburg, Advent, etc.
yeah,
So if you have to come back and do the same job
yeah,
because it pays for the loan,
yeah,
then what is the point of even going there?
right,
So for me, it was more from ROI point of view, but at the same time, there are intangible benefits attached to it, which you might be able to talk about more.
yeah,
Like, you have been there for a year, so
yeah,
how has it changed you personally? But
yeah,
before that, I want to ask you: you had ISB offer, right? ISB
yeah,
admit, but you didn't go for it.
yeah.
You didn't go for Yale. But let's say Yale and Columbia, since they both are foreign MBA schools, that's okay. But why between India and US MBA you chose US MBA? Is it just because it's a bigger brand name, or
Yeah.
there were other decisions, other factors attached to it?
Well, first of all, I think it's great that you thought about it so much for your own decision, because a lot of times you were already on that path that hundreds of people have done before, BCG, P, MBA, back to P. It's like,
Yeah.
you're just running in a rat race without thinking. So it's good that you've given it some thought. Uh, I think on ISB versus Columbia, I felt that after doing my undergrad at Xavier's, I would probably meet a similar quality of crowd at
Hmm.
ISB. And the idea of going to Colombia seemed so much better in terms of especially the people I would meet
Hmm.
or just the newness. It
Hmm.
would be a completely different environment. Uh, I also went for some learning weekends. This is the concept in ISB that for
Okay.
students who have the deferred admit, you can go there for the learning weekend.
Okay.
I think 2 times a year in Hyderabad. I went there and I saw that everybody was just partying for on that weekend,
Okay.
and there were a lot of us there who were sure that we were not going to come to ISB.
Okay.
So we in fact made a group of 5 6 people. Like our group was the people who said that, oh, we are not coming to ISB, we just came here to meet interesting people. So I think that sort of validated my hypothesis
Hmm.
that you know it's an exceptional school, especially if you want to continue building a career in India, but it did not provide a lot of value add for me. So I decided to not do ISB, but it was not a very difficult decision for
Right.
me. Yeah.
Hmm. But that was 4 years back, right?
Yeah.
Then you got into BCG.
Yeah.
Then you worked at a startup,
Yeah.
which was around tech.
Yeah.
Then why were you convinced to go for it?
I was not really very thoughtful about why I should do it. For me, it was both a personal, more of a personal decision. But now, after 1 year, I feel that, like I said in the beginning, I've grown so much personally and professionally
Hmm.
that the decision seems really justified. Or maybe I'm just trying to justify it. Whatever you make out of it. So for me, I felt that I would do really well in tech, and being a non-engineer and seeing the sort of opportunities in India, I felt that to work at a Google, Apple, Netflix, the roles are few and far in between for a guy who wants to do something like strategy at Google. That
Hmm.
role just doesn't exist in India,
Right.
right? So I thought that okay, I have this passion for consumer tech, which is why I worked at Mosaic after
Hmm.
BCG. Uh, so I validated that passion, and then I thought that doing an MBA will provide me that pathway, and I think it really does. I don't think there is any other way for someone who's passionate about, let's say, consumer tech
Hmm.
to get that kind of a product management or strategy and operations role in India in a big company. So I think Columbia provided that for me. And I
Right.
feel that at a personal level, I have grown so much. Uh, and I think this is something why I would want to even convince you to maybe give it a second thought, because I really can't, uh, you know, overemphasize how much value there is in just trying new things. So, for example, I tried scuba diving for the first time. Uh, I'm probably never going to do it again, but but I tried it. I tried skiing, and recently I'd gone to a theme park, and I'm scared of roller coasters. But before, all my friends were going, and I thought that I just did scuba 3 months ago. I can do this roller coaster. The point of saying this is that I've become so open to new things,
Hmm.
which has given me so much confidence.
Is it because people around you were doing it? Because you could have
Yeah.
done these things in India as well.
I think that's a great point. So, like, the scuba thing was organized by somebody in my class who's a good friend of mine. So,
Hmm.
I had a lot of questions. I was bugging him every day that, bro, how safe is this?
Hmm.
Or is this place good? Should we go there or not? And he really convinced me and supported me that you should do it. So, you get a feeling that for anything you want to do, there are like 15 to 20 people who will say yes. They'll say yes
Hmm.
to new things. And they're all from different parts of the world, but you'll realize that you have so many similarities. Like you
Hmm.
have the same fears, you have the same thing that I want to get this kind of job.
Right.
We laugh on the similar kind of things.
Hmm.
So I think you can, of course, meet so many different types of people in India as well. But when you go abroad, uh, the diversity you see, it helps you grow in ways that maybe in the short term, like you're saying, in the short term, you're going to come back and do the same job.
Right.
Uh, in the short term, what is the ROI?
Yeah.
But I really believe that in the long term, it helps you grow so much as a person and even professionally. I'll give you an example. I was interning this summer and I asked my manager and another manager level in my team, how do you get your job? Right.
Where were you interning from?
So I was interning at Airbnb. So again, great example of a company which is in consumer tech. I wanted to work in consumer tech. I was so grateful I got this role. And after spending 12 weeks there, I can tell you with full confidence that this is where, I thrive. I finally got to know this after so many years in my career that, like, this kind
You
of,
like this?
I really like this. So my manager got the job because she had worked with her boss 8 years ago on some project together
Okay.
when they were in different companies.
Hmm.
The other guy got the job because he and his boss went to Stanford.
Okay.
So they were one batch apart, but they had a lot of common friends. How did the ultimate boss get the job? So he was headhunted by a recruiter, but then the hiring manager realized that they had a lot of common friends who went to Stanford. So this is what my manager was telling me actually on my last day, that why are we doing this podcast? We met at BCG, right?
Yeah.
So ultimately, it helps you connect with people who tomorrow, if you want some advice on, let's say, healthcare in India, let's say some guy in the US is trying to invest, he'll just give me a call and I can give him some perspective that hopefully is better than ChatGPT, right?
Yeah.
So uh, I think we don't think too much about the long term perspective when we just
Yeah.
hammered this point of ROI, and I don't know if that changes your point of view a little bit.
No, I agree on the
Yeah,
intangible part. There are a lot of intangible things
yeah,
you take away from entire MBA
yeah,
experience in terms of the connections, in terms of all the things that you never did before in your life,
yeah,
but you got to do them because you were excited that your friends were doing it. But on the connections part, I think it makes sense if you want to, let's say, work in US or maybe like outside India. It helps you to get that cultural context outside India. How, people from different diversities come together and they adapt
yeah,
and then they learn and grow. But let's say someone who plans to stay in India,
yeah,
and while it might sound like an emotional thing to you, but if you like, I've spoken to a lot of people who who are just very clear that I want to be in India in the long term.
yeah,
So the connections that I'm going to build outside India in those schools, in those B schools, and
yeah,
they'll work somewhere outside India. What would be the utility?
right,
On the emotional part, yes, they would be a very good friends.
yeah.
You can provide them that perspective that they want, or vice versa. But does it make sense if you want to stay in India?
I think I completely hear you. Like, it makes sense. I feel the great thing about this conversation is both decisions make sense. If I have to argue for this point, I would say that everywhere I've worked so far, which is BCG, Mosaic, and now short internship at Airbnb, the confidence I got after this internship is unparalleled. And a key reason for that was the appreciation I got from my manager and my team, which is something, I think it's a little bit of American culture. Like, even if they ask you to make a slide, you make it, like, they go crazy. That,
Okay.
oh, amazing. Thank
Okay.
you. And like us Indians, we are like, you
Yeah.
pay me for this. Like, of course I'll do it. But
Yeah.
I got such positive feedback. They invested so much in me, which happens here as well. And I had great managers in BCG and Mosaic. But I thought the culture more was that, good job, like, what's next? What's
Okay.
next?
Yeah.
And I just think as the next generation, as Gen Z, we can probably bring some good things from that culture back here. And I would also say that a lot of my friends in the MBA are
Right.
Indians, are very sure that they want to come back here, even
Oh,
if it's not for PE. Like, maybe they have a family business,
right.
maybe they want to switch to PE or VC. Like, they were not doing that earlier, but they
Okay.
want to switch to that. And I know it's not very straightforward, but they're trying to do that. So even they are very intentional that they want to build an Indian network.
Right.
Like, all the big titans of the industry, like, their kids go abroad to study, right? So you can also build a very influential Indian network by staying abroad. But like I said, like, both decisions are right.
No, that's
Yeah.
a very interesting point. So
Yeah.
I know someone who went to Harvard recently, and someone from Bajaj family
Yeah.
was also going to Harvard in the same batch.
Yeah.
So that's a very like good way to make meaningful connections,
Yeah.
influential connections
Yeah.
that might help you in something you want to do later.
Yeah, and I feel that ultimately when you're here, your connections will be more professional. Like
Right.
we were able to form a friendship, but I have realized that it's not that easy. Like
Yeah.
they're still at a professional level. Over
Hmm.
there, you're like rubbing shoulders, you're in the classroom, you're doing scuba diving together,
Yeah.
you're eating at a restaurant together. So I think that people beyond just as a colleague, which
Hmm.
helps you in ways, it may not even, maybe it will never end up helping you, but
Then,
yeah.
there is this book called
Huh.
Influence, which talks about the principle of liking. That if you like someone at
Yeah.
a personal level,
Yeah.
there's very low chance that you will say no to that person.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you make friends who like you, and eventually you get the work done.
Yeah, yeah. And for example, I had gone on a trip in my first year where there were like 20 Spanish people, and I was the only Indian.
Okay.
So bizarre 3 days.
Okay.
30% of the time, I didn't know what they're talking about. They're just talking in Spanish. But I took so much away from the trip. The one thing I took away was that these guys really look out for each other.
Hmm.
Like let's say you're going to class and there's some guy who's like really far away, but you'll like go to them, say hi, just because you're from the same country. Or every time someone walks in the room, you're so excited that, hey,
Hmm.
I felt that they were so proud of their culture,
Got
which
it.
I feel that the Indians, we slowly learned from them. Like when we started, I feel that all of us were trying a little bit to make non Indian friends,
Yeah.
because it makes sense, like you are there for a global experience. But this was my observation, we slowly realized that all these cultures, like they're so loving and passionate amongst themselves, we should also be more proud. And
Hmm.
then slowly we became more proud, and like now we're a very tightly knit community. But I think that in general has given me a lot of pride about my community even when I come back to India. So
Right.
there are these things that you learn, which just, I also come from a place of privilege. So I can say that it helps you become this better human, and get that experience. But I see you that in the short term, it may not make sense for everyone.
Hmm.
It makes sense in the short term also for some personas.
In the last 1 year,
Yeah.
did you ever feel like leaving everything and coming back? Did you ever feel like dropping out?
Short answer is no. I do know of, like there was one student in there's one student in the deferred MBA who got in 1 year before me, and he had guided me a little bit as well to
Okay.
do this.
Hmm.
And then when I was going, I texted him, "Hey, bro, are you coming this year?" He said he's dropped the admit. So the reason he said that is that he
So
got
he didn't go there only.
he didn't go. So
Okay.
he got a role in a different investing firm, and he realized that the MBA is not going to help him
Hmm.
in getting a better role. There's another guy who came there and left within a week. We didn't
Wow.
even know that. Like I thought he was becoming a good friend of mine, but I realized that, oh, he's gone and he didn't even tell me. But
Okay.
I think another good thing for me is that I know that it's a very reversible decision, right? Like, what's the worst that can happen? Maybe you do your 2 years and then you immediately come back and you'll get a good job here.
Yeah.
So I've never felt that I need to immediately return.
Hmm.
The one thing I would say is that I love living in New York. So whenever I travel outside New York, I feel really homesick for some reason. Like I
Oh.
went to San Francisco for a week for work during my summer internship.
And here
Yeah,
you described those two people, right? Who
yeah, yeah,
dropped out. One didn't go only,
yeah,
and one went and came back within a few weeks.
yeah.
So, what was their thought process, and are they doing good in life SPU?
Huh.
And secondly, if you look at different personas in your college, and not just your B school, but
Yeah,
across B schools, you would have made some friends across B schools.
yeah.
How people think about it? Do you think it helps someone who is straight out of college, worked at junior roles, maybe not in a very good companies, versus those someone like you who has worked at BCG, then a
Yeah.
startup?
Hmm.
So how should someone make this decision logically. One is the personal side
Yeah,
that
yeah.
you described,
Yeah, yeah.
that it makes intangible sense and you
Yeah.
don't know what you would get out of it.
Yeah.
So this is more like unknown.
Yeah.
This is like just getting it done because you
Yeah.
don't want to have any regret.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But if someone wants to think about it logically and a
Yeah.
tangible value out of it,
Yeah.
so how are people thinking about it across different backgrounds and personas?
Yeah. So I feel on the first part about these two people, the one thing I've learned after this 1 year is that whatever decision people make, they think is the right decision. Everybody else is an idiot. So those two think that they've made the right decision. They are happy, and I think objectively they are happy. Like they
Okay.
are in the role they wanted to be in.
Hmm.
So it doesn't make sense maybe for them to do this just for the intangible that we spoke about. I think personas is very interesting about, like, there are some people who I feel are so happy that they're doing this. Like I have a friend who is a girl, and uh, so she was doing consulting in India, in not in MBB,
Hmm.
and then she wanted to do consulting after MBA at Columbia, and she got a great internship. Uh, I asked her, how's it going? How are you feeling? And she was just so happy to get out of the rut she was in India, both at a personal and professional level. She felt that the freedom it provided her, which I think you might relate to, right? I think for a lot of girls, there's some restriction in India from parents, or you just feel, I think, yeah, restricted a little bit. And when you're there, you feel free.
बिकॉज कोई नहीं है पूछने वाला कि
Yeah.
कितने टाइम पे जा रहे हो कितने बजे आ रहे हो.
And I think you can't put a value on that.
Yeah.
And she's also professionally made a big jump, so she's very happy.
So you just said she has made a professional big jump.
Yeah.
So she was in a normal consulting firm,
Yeah.
like a boutique consulting firm.
No, like, not an MBB, and now she's going to be joining an MBB firm. Something else I would say is that when I was leaving my startup, I spoke to all the senior people there that I want to do entrepreneurship
Right.
after my MBA. So what is your advice?
Okay.
The first thing they told me is don't do an MBA.
Okay.
So, and after studying there for a year, I think for most cases that's true. I feel that if you want to build a business truly, then there's no better way of learning how to do that than by building it, rather than doing an MBA and delaying that for a few years. I think it makes much more sense to just start up and invest that money in the startup. Uh, maybe there's some learning from, or there's an increase in your pedigree, that maybe when you go to investors, they see that MBA tag and are happier with you. But I would say in general, it makes a lot more sense to do what my founder said, not do an MBA. Something we spoke about earlier, if you want to work in big tech,
Right.
or a company like Airbnb, Netflix, Spotify, Uber, in like a product management or strategy and ops role, then it makes a lot of sense for you to go ahead and do the MBA.
So you are saying there are no big tech roles in India.
See, I'm also trying to see if there are, because if I were to come back, I would love to work in that kind of role. But I think there are very few.
And how do you define big tech? This is like a word which is just used as a buzzword everywhere. But what is big tech?
So I would say all the big technology companies, a lot of them are headquartered in California. Apple, Google, Nvidia, Airbnb, Microsoft, Uber, Spotify, Amazon. Like, I think Amazon took 30 or 40 students from Columbia this year. It was the biggest hire. And a lot of these guys were ex-consultants. So ex-consultants who became product managers. So that is the perfect example, in my view, when you think about using the degree to pivot. Like, आप consulting में घिस रहे हो 4-5 साल, and then you're like, you know what, I want to be an operator, but
Yeah.
I want to be an operator I feel that I want to work in proper tech. Like in India, you can work in tech first startups, or you can work at like a Flipkart, Swiggy. But if you want to work at an Amazon, this is a perfect example of you getting a chance to do that. And maybe I mentioned a couple more personas. One is, I think that we are assuming that a lot of people are from BCG or P, or from like a Goldman Sachs. They have
Right.
that big brand. But the reality is that maybe a lot of people have done like big four consulting, you
Hmm.
know, or like a boutique consulting,
Right.
or so not the strongest brand. So
Hmm.
for them, the opportunity to work in an MBB or in a great investment bank in the US, which is I think what most people do, right? Like think 20 to 30% go to consulting, 20 to 30% go to banking. So
Right.
that is the big thing that a lot of people do the MBA for. So
Hmm.
even for those people, it makes sense that you go there. You know, how working in BCG even for 18 months has opened so many doors for us.
That's true. It was
Uh,
such a huge network,
yeah.
and you message anyone who is at BCG, and that person will reply to
You
you.
message anyone who's not even BCG.
Yeah, that's
Like
true.
even at Airbnb, people used to ask me, "Oh, how was it working in BCG India?"
Yeah.
So I think we feel that only these guys get into top schools. That's not true. Like even at CBS, a lot of my friends were not from these companies,
Hmm.
but now they are. I think that's another persona for which it makes sense. One for which we briefly discussed it doesn't make sense is I see my friends who want to pivot into VC or pivot into PE.
Okay.
I think that's really tough. You know, like let's say you've done consulting and
Right.
you do the MBA and you
Hmm.
feel that you'll pivot into VC or PE. I think that people have found really challenging, be
Hmm.
it in US or India. So that's just the reality, you know. I think one or two people were able to do it, but
Yeah.
those are exceptions.
So I think pivoting to tech is like the best use case you can make out of for an MBA, and for PE investment banking, it might be a bit difficult if you're not coming from those backgrounds.
I think, like, I'm glad you asked it so I can make it a bit clearer. If you want to pivot to consulting or investment banking,
Right.
straightforward, you can do it.
You can do it.
Regardless of your background.
Okay.
You can have you could have been a social worker for 3 or 4 years, but if you show them problem solving skill, communication, you can get into consulting or banking.
Consulting, I understood, but for
Yeah.
banking, have you seen such examples?
Yeah. Many examples.
Hmm.
Uh, I think it's even more so for banking. Like they just
Okay.
want someone with hustle. Tech, I'm glad you asked it. It's not that easy to pivot. Like I would advise someone who wants to work in tech to maybe do something similar to what I had done, which is I worked in a tech kind of role in a startup in
Right.
India.
Hmm.
They really, because there's so many people who apply for these jobs and there's lesser room than banking or consulting. So they want people who've done very similar work before, you know, even if it's not with a big tech company. So my work in the startup really helped me
Hmm.
achieve that. Uh, and yeah, I think what I meant is really difficult to pivot to is PE or VC. Like pure investing roles are really difficult to
So
pivot to.
for private equity and venture capital, they
Yeah.
prefer people who have worked in the industry before. Or maybe they have, for venture capital, maybe someone who has a prior experience of building something, because they want people who
Yeah.
have been in the startup space. They
Exactly.
understand how an entrepreneur thinks.
Yeah. Honestly, this was, I think, one of the big myths or lies you can say that we had about the
Hmm.
MBA, that you can easily pivot.
That's not true.
That's not true unless you want to do consulting or IB.
Hmm.
You know, so that's something. Especially if someone ends up getting a deferred MBA, I would
Right.
highly recommend them to, even if it's not in the biggest of brand, try to work in a sector that you see yourself working post MBA, so
Hmm.
that pivoting becomes easier.
Got it. And you mentioned that people think that MBA, it's easier for people to get into these B schools if you have like BCG or some big tags
Yeah.
before your MBA. But you also said that EY, PwC, you are working in, let's say, MBB -1
Yeah.
or IB -1, then also you can get into it. Do you have such examples? And what are the kind of extracurriculars or the moat these people had which helped
Yeah.
them to get into schools like Columbia or maybe like Wharton,
Yeah.
Harvard?
I think it's all about the story. You know, we really, I feel that underestimate the essay part of the application, because growing up in India, it was all about JE, or CAT, or CA. Like it's all been so exam driven that we really care so much about the GMAT
Hmm.
that our effort starts and ends there. Like
Hmm.
I've seen so many friends who have incredible profiles, but just because they didn't get a really strong GMAT score, they almost give up on the process, or they spend too long on the exam. Like they
Right.
spend 9 months on the exam, but 1 month on the essay. For me, that is a learning I've had,
Hmm.
that if you can craft a good story, that matters so much more than just the exam.
What kind of questions are being asked in MBSs?
I think there are broadly two types. One is uh, why that school, you know, which is in a way of asking why you in that school, you know.
Okay.
So you
Hmm.
have to really talk about how your personality or goals align really well with what that school's community is or has to offer. And I think the second thing is just a deeper dive into your experience. Like,
Hmm.
what are the kind of things, what sets you apart, what is the one, like if there is one linearity or one topic that
Hmm.
defines your life, like can you wrap your, right from when you were a kid to high school to college to now working, is there like a one problem statement that you're looking
Hmm.
to solve?
I've heard that
Yeah.
a lot of things written in these essays might not be true or might be just hyped up.
Yeah.
And I know people, like there are MBA consultants who
Yeah.
write essays for you. And
Yeah.
of course, they talk to you, what is your background, this story would suit better.
Yeah.
So, like, I want a genuine answer कि MBA में MBA essays में कितना सच होता है, कितना
Okay.
hype up हो सकता है. And I have seen people जिनका बहुत अच्छा बैकग्राउंड नहीं था या फिर बहुत अच्छी जगह काम नहीं किया है, बट दे रोट सच इन्फ्लुएंसिंग एसेज that they got into some of the top B schools in US.
You've put me on the spot now.
Yeah.
I just hope my essay never comes out. That's all I would say. No, I feel that as Indians, we are not used to exaggerating what we have done or creating a narrative around everything we worked on.
But do you think
Yeah.
this exaggerating part is because people in India just don't like it when someone is exaggerating about his or her success? I mean, let's say if you talk about, let's say, how much you earn या फिर कोलंबिया में कितनी अच्छी लाइफ चल रही है. So Indian people, do you think Indian people are like that? They would comment कि show off क्यों कर रहा है, versus US people or people outside India कि wow, we want to learn it from you.
Yeah.
Is it the point that you're trying to make?
Maybe, yeah, it's a cultural thing, but I think the actionable here is that the reality is everybody is going to exaggerate on their essay. And I'm not saying, I don't think one should hype it up like crazy. The facts should be the facts. But I genuinely feel that if you think deeply about whatever you have done, like if I put you on the spot, like why did you do CA? Why did you do whatever you did? I think if you deeply think about it, there will be some common thread. Like I personally didn't know what it was when I was applying, but as I thought more and more about it, my counselor and my parents and my friends told me, yeah, you ask people around you, like when you think about me, what do you like? What are the three words that come to your mind? And then you realize that okay, this has been driving me, and then that's what you try to put on the essay, and it's a great exercise actually in self-reflection. But yeah, in terms of actionable, you should definitely not hide any impact you've made in the
But this
company.
is
Yeah.
more like what you should or shouldn't do.
Yeah.
But in terms of what actually happens,
Yeah.
so you are seeing students at Columbia.
Yeah.
Are there some people जिनको देख के you feel कि यार इसका कैसे हो गया? मतलब इसका कैसे ही हो गया? He doesn't even deserve to be here.
No. I genuinely don't feel that.
For anyone, you have never felt that.
No. I think that I'm one of the youngest in the batch. I see people with so much meaningful experience across like different industries, functions. Like I think everybody, because the competition is so high, like the acceptance rate is so low, that the fact that you've made it means that you've done some incredible things in your life. So I like genuinely don't feel that about anybody. I do feel that about people from other schools, you know. Like at Columbia, you don't get any bad crowd. But
Okay.
I'm just
Are you being ambassador of your college?
I'm just kidding around. But the fact is that the acceptance rate is so low
Yeah.
that everybody there, maybe the first few times you meet someone, at a
Hmm.
party or in a class, you might feel like this person has not done so much that
Hmm.
they ought to be here. But when you talk to them more, you get to know them
Hmm.
more, you realize that, okay, uh, this was such a meaningful conversation for me, and I learned
Hmm.
so much from them. So yeah, I feel that when you get to know people more, you realize that nobody is there who didn't deserve to be there.
Yeah. So on the surface of it,
Yeah,
sometimes you might have felt कि कैसे हो गया इसका, but
yeah,
when you spoke to that person, you
yeah,
realized कि there are a few things that that person has done, and that's why he or she is here.
yeah,
So you are meeting a lot of new people there, right?
yeah,
But at the same time, you are away from your family and are like very away.
yeah,
You have never stayed without your parents anywhere. And there must be a
yeah,
lot of students like you there.
yeah.
So how do you go through it emotionally? And not just for you, but for everyone. And like,
Hmm.
does it differ for everyone?
That's a really didn't expect such an emotional question to come on the podcast, but luckily for me, I thought I would be much more homesick than what I actually am.
Okay.
I feel that students there usually are so much older. Like they're
Hmm.
at least 25, 26 when you go there. So as opposed to going in undergrad, I feel that if I went in undergrad, I would have been much more homesick. I in fact went
Hmm.
also for a summer school in my undergrad, and at that time I was really depressed. I was missing home a lot. But this time I didn't feel as homesick as I thought I would. And generally among students as well, of course you miss family, you miss
Hmm.
food, you miss food a lot. But uh, I've it varies. I'm sure for some people the homesickness must be even higher. But I think that's another advantage of the deferred MBA,
Hmm.
where almost for 3 years, somewhere in the back of my
You
mind,
just know.
my parents and I know that I'm
Yeah.
going. You're not never consciously thinking about it, but I think that eases the process. The way I think about it is that it's not an irreversible decision.
Hmm.
You can I've
Always
already
come back.
Yeah, I've already been back twice during my
Hmm.
holidays.
Right.
And after MBA you can also demand really good jobs in India.
Hmm.
So if you need to come back, you always can. So that's the way I would think about it.
So it's been a
Yeah,
year for you now.
yeah.
How does a day look like for you in Columbia Business School?
That's a great question. I think it varies a lot. Like there's no set timetable like school or college. But usually in any given week, you're in classes for around, I would want to say 15 hours a week.
Okay.
15 to maybe, depends on how many credits you take, but 15 to 20 hours a week you're in class. There's a lot of social events. And usually the advice you get is that if it's a class versus a social event, you go for the social event. Again, with the same logic that we discussed about the network,
Hmm.
right? Like years down the line, it's not a course that's going to get you a job. It's going to be that connection you made at a party. So if you would want, there'd be a social event every day. Every day you'll have some or the other option. Those events can be industry specific, like maybe it's a startup meetup. So founders who want to talk and talk about their business. It can
Hmm.
be folks who are, maybe there's a speaker from a big tech company who's coming and just sharing their experience. It can be an alum from consulting or banking. Uh, it can also be interest based. So it can be for a sport like
Got it.
pickleball or tennis.
So what time do you leave
Yeah.
your home and come back?
Again, I think it really varies. Like some days there are no classes, but usually I would say it's a full day,
Okay.
because you're there, you want to be active.
Hmm.
Uh, so maybe for your first class, you leave around 9 or 10 a.m. and then you try to come back by 6 or 7 p.m. So it's a normal day. Uh, the other big thing that takes up your time is, of course, recruiting. Right? So recruiting involves getting your resume ready, networking with people,
Hmm.
applying, interviewing. So
So there
that
is nothing like campus placement there.
I would say that for consulting and IB, it is their version of campus placement.
Okay.
So there's a legacy of companies hiring X number of students every year. They
Hmm.
have a good connection with the career center.
Hmm.
Uh, and things are more defined, timelines are known. So you can say it's almost like India. I would say that for tech, it's really, they call it unstructured,
Hmm.
structured and unstructured. So in tech, you don't know which company will come at what time. You just have to be ready with the resume. and it's not technically on campus. Like they just put the post up online,
Okay.
and you have to be ready and apply when it comes out.
Hmm.
So only consulting and banking is structured, and some, like big company strategy roles, like maybe in FMCG or in healthcare. But otherwise, it's mostly look online, and there are specific MBA roles that open up, and you can apply directly.
And do you think the interview process, for example, let's take BCG. In India, there are multiple case interviews that you
Yeah.
have to go through. So is it different in US or it's exactly the same?
Uh, I was really away from consulting, but what I learned was that the one thing that's different, I think, which is interesting, is this concept called coffee chats, because networking is such a big part of the recruiting process in the US. So in banking and consulting, for every firm, I think you do more than 5 or 10 coffee chats.
Wow.
And a coffee chat is that, let's say Nandini is a consultant at BCG. So you just talk to her for 25 minutes over Zoom.
On anything.
Uh, it's ideally, for me, it's a bit of a black box, because that was one of the reasons why I decided to do tech as well. That you're investing so much time, these 25 minutes with 10 people, where you're just trying to get to know the firm, or they're trying to get to know you. I think in banking, it is more strict, where if you don't do well in that chat, like there can also be technical questions. So you might not get more coffee chat invites. But I think in consulting, it's more informal. They genuinely want you to know what that particular office provides. Like over there, each office does its own recruiting. Like Mumbai versus Delhi would be different.
Right.
They have their own headcount, their own culture, their own clients. So you do that, and then after the coffee chats, when the main interview happens, if you're shortlisted based on your coffee chats and your resume, then I think there's just 2 interviews, 2 or 3 with the partners,
Right.
and then you get a decision on the same day.
Which is similar to what happens in India.
Okay.
Interesting. So what's your plan? 1 year left. Are you planning to come back? You are thinking to apply for some placements there, or you're like still figuring out?
I think I'm open to both. It depends on the kinds of opportunities I get, both abroad or in India. I really enjoyed, like I told you, my internship in tech. I think another big benefit, we didn't discuss this, but another big benefit of going to the US is that you can work with startups in San Francisco. So that is, like the place to be, for example, if you want to work in AI
That's
or
true.
any cutting edge technology. So I really want to be either in startups or tech, but I'm also open to roles in India. I think my plan is to work there max for 2 or 3 years. So that could also be in 0 years, but max 3 years, then come back to India, and then maybe do something fun here. Like I said, try to replicate the learnings I have there, like bring that culture, or start something here, or try to see what kind of roles are here in strategy, in tech or consumer. So, but I think the fun part is second year is all about traveling. In first year, you're still figuring things out.
I think you were traveling a lot in first year as well.
No, but
Every day there is a new Insta story, new country, new place.
that is just for show. But I think in second year you genuinely do it.
So you were not doing all of that.
I think I was using the same trips photos across the year to give an
Okay.
illusion that I'm having fun. But second year is more about traveling. It's more about giving back. Like I think this is a great medium for me to share my learnings. You
Right.
also, with the first years who come in who are so confused, like we were confused, so helping them out. I think it's also about building deeper friendships. First year for me was a lot about breadth. So try to connect with as many people as you can, go for as many events as you can. But I think second year is that now you know the people that you enjoy hanging out with. So try to make them friends for life. And yeah, I see it as a short stint, this entire MBA. Like,
And you mentioned
yeah.
about AI, right? If you
Yeah.
want to work into AI, maybe like SF is the
Yeah.
place. How do you feel about AI since you are in US, although like New York and not SF?
Yeah.
But generally, what people talk about AI,
Yeah.
like are they all trying to build something in AI?
Yeah.
And how does it differ from like when you come back to India?
Yeah.
So how people react to AI?
Yeah. I feel that uh, when I went to SF for a week, over there I did some coffee chats with 3 or 4 people, and everybody is so excited about AI. The fact that they believe that the next $1 billion company might be built by just one person.
Hmm.
So you don't need that manpower. You can just by yourself and with your computer using these tools, you can build the next big thing. I think there's a big buzz of getting AI in consumer or consumer tech, because in all the previous tech revolutions, it usually started with a consumer app. Like it
Hmm.
started with a Facebook or WhatsApp, and then that turned into Facebook ads. Like the B2C product turns into a B2B.
Hmm.
But in AI, it's been a bit different. You've got a lot of enterprise solutions, but there's excitement now about getting consumer first AI. Of course, ChatGPT is a consumer AI app, but
Right.
more in like shopping or the
Hmm.
way we consume entertainment.
Anything that you've seen in shopping?
Uh, I've seen a few startups where they're trying to get AI in fashion. So I've not played with those apps, but there's a lot of excitement, especially in SF. There's a
Hmm.
lot of people building. There's a lot of roles for MBAs. You feel like you're part of something so big, and you're graduating at such an amazing time that
Hmm.
you can actually make a lot of wealth by joining a startup rather than going through the normal career route.
Right.
So
It's a risk you take, but
yeah,
upside is huge.
exactly. And when you talk to people in SF, they feel that there's no place like SF. Like they think New York is not doing anything.
Hmm.
They feel that no other country is doing anything, and I think they're right, because every top person building in AI is in SF. So I think I'm glad we spoke about this actually. I think for somebody who's excited about this space, then doing an MBA is another reason. This is another reason for
Hmm.
you to potentially consider doing it, because it provides you the easiest pathway to those roles.
Right.
Yeah.
And have you seen anyone around you not doing MBA or maybe just dropped out, but is still able to build a very good network or like a decent network to connect to the people he or she wants to connect to?
I think that all of these things can be done without MBA.
Hmm.
Like you can build a network, you can travel, you can meet new people. The things we study, you read a good book. I
Yeah.
in fact I've read a few books, and I feel that they're teaching me the same thing in class.
Hmm.
You can do all of this without it, but the reality is how many people do that?
Yeah.
Like there are apps through which you can connect with random people and travel to a different part of the world, but I don't think any of my friends do that.
Hmm.
uh, you can, if you want, on LinkedIn, if you have a good profile, I'm sure any AI startup will at least reply to your message. But how many people actually take the effort to do that? So in that sense, if you're feeling stuck, or
Right.
if you're feeling like in change, you want something to do, then also this provides a great way for you, that for the next 2 years you don't have a job. You have time on your hands,
Hmm.
and you can just go with a blank open slate, that I'm going to explore stuff, and
Hmm.
then in 2 years I'll figure out what I want to do. So I think it's a potential startup idea for us to think about, that is there a way of doing this without this degree? Like, can you do it in a more affordable way? I'm sure you can, but right now I don't. Do you think like you are more aware of these things? Like, are there, like, I would be curious if there are programs, similar programs to, you know, connect with strangers who are like passionate founders or professionals or pivot careers.
Yeah, there are company startups who have tried to build like alternate MBAs in which you don't spend that much, plus you build a network so
Yeah.
that you can get jobs. For example, I think Mesa School of Business has been trying to do it. They invite entrepreneurs to teach a topic. How did
Right.
they build their businesses? There was Stoa School.
Right.
I think it's not active anymore. So I think people are trying and have tried to do that, but I think we are yet very far away from it. And कितनी
Yeah.
भी बातें कर ले that try करो तो you can build connections etc. But like reality is तुम्हारा CV देखा जाता है, and अगर CV पे
Yeah.
एक MBA है,
Yeah.
it does make an
Yeah.
impact. it's not easy for everyone to go out, like build
Yeah.
connections. It is just so hard to do that. And if you are at a B school or like a college or like a very good college, you build those connections naturally and like effortlessly.
Yeah, I feel that there's a lot of talk about, ROI, and it's true that it's not as easy to get a job out of the MBA, maybe as it used to be. But I saw that in my internship also recently, that every person in my team had done an MBA from a top school in the
Hmm.
US. And I feel that ultimately confirmation bias comes in,
Hmm.
that tomorrow, let's hopefully I'm in a decent position. So
Right.
when I see students and I see that, okay, this guy has, done their MBA from a top school, you immediately get some validation that,
Right.
okay, you know, at the end of the day, you just don't want someone you want someone who listens to instructions and can get decent job done. And you get to know that through a baseline
Hmm.
of the MBA. So yeah, I agree. It makes sense.
And while we all talk about skill based jobs, and there has been this
Yeah,
movement where everyone is just
yeah,
talking about skill based jobs.
yeah,
Companies are looking for skills, you need to have skills, degree don't matter.
yeah.
But I think we are yet very far from it.
I agree.
लाइक
And
स्किल्स कितने भी हों बट
yeah,
अगर वो कॉलेज वाला टैग एक अच्छा ब्रांड वैल्यू
yeah,
वो
yeah,
नहीं होगा तो पीपल वुड नॉट इवन पिक योर सीवी.
yeah. I think it's great you mentioned this because the two skills or two or three skills I used a lot in my internship, there's nothing very technical. I used this tool called SQL a lot, which was not that tough to learn, especially with ChatGPT. But the thing I was learning most was like hypothesis based problem solving. That you got a big problem to solve, but you don't want to go too deep into the data. Like you want to have some hypothesis,
राइट.
uh, 80/20, make those cuts, and communication skills.
Hmm.
Now that you've done all the work, you need to influence the other guy, and he's at the same level as you. I'm an intern. Like, how do you influence another guy? It's all about communication. So yes, these skills are important, especially I think in engineering and those kind of jobs. But for us who want to become more managerial class and leaders, it's these like basic soft skills that matter, which is why like consulting or MBA, like those tags are still relevant. Yeah,
That's true.
yeah.
That's true. So I've also heard people go to MBA schools for finding their life partners,
Oh
and a
yeah.
lot of people like end up breaking up with their prior girlfriends or boyfriends because of something called turkey drop, which
Okay.
I got to know about like a month back. So, what is turkey drop, and do you think people find their life partners there?
It's an important question.
It's 2 years, right?
Yeah.
Especially when you are like 26,
Yeah.
27,
Yeah.
that age of your
Yeah.
life
Yeah.
where like you want to get married in next one or two
That age
years.
of your life, the school has done the filtering for you.
Yeah.
Broadly similar ambition, similar background. So and I think we have a friend in common who is really seeing the MBA as the way where she'll find her ultimate life partner.
Yeah.
So it is something people think about, but and I was telling her this as well. The reality is that the stats are not in your favor. It's like dreaming of getting a job in investing, uh,
Okay.
because people are already at that age that they've they are in a relationship. Either
Hmm.
they're dating, or a lot of them are married, a lot of them have kids, or if they're still single, uh, like there are very few people who are still single. All the good ones seem to be taken, and I think the number of couples coming out of MBA schools are really limited. Like if I think about my batch, maybe it'll be like single digits, the number of couples who like met in the MBA and you see them having a future. So I think that's more true, at least from our time in BCG. I saw that it's more true in Indian MBAs
Okay.
because you go to an IIM typically when you're relatively younger.
Hmm.
So there's a higher chance that you find your next life partner there. But uh, it's not true in the US, at least from what I've observed. There's been a lot of people who have been disappointed. And Turkey Drop is interesting. If I was really curious to know like what this concept is. So essentially, I think what happens is during Thanksgiving, which is end of November. So it's you start school in end of August. So it's like a 3-4 months period. That's
Right.
the first time you go back home.
Okay.
So you go back home, you meet your partner in your home location, and
Right.
you realize that that fire has died. You're a different person now. You like
Hmm.
adventure. Maybe there's someone in school who you like. So it leads to a lot of people breaking up.
Hmm.
I would say I've not seen this a lot. I think it's one of those things that maybe used to happen a lot earlier. But I think now people come in with like very happy, committed relationships.
Is it
And
only like your batch? Like, how have you seen the stats in your batch and in Colombia?
yeah.
And do you know how does these things play out in, let's say, Wharton, Harvard?
Uh, I don't know, but I would imagine it to be in the few conversations I've had. I would imagine it to be similar,
Hmm.
because I feel that all these schools are so similar. Like whenever I talk to people, we use the same apps, we have the same terms, so it's practically you're doing the same thing in different
Hmm.
schools. So I don't think it will be that different. But yeah, the sad thing is, if you're seeing, and another thing is when you go there and you're single, you a lot of times don't want to date within the school, you know because if things don't work out, that leads to its own problems.
Hmm.
So that's why this idea of finding the one in business school is probably, it's a myth. It's a
Oh,
myth. Yeah.
okay, that's
Yeah. Yeah.
interesting. A lot of my friends are dependent on their MBAs.
Yeah. Maybe now the number of people applying will go down, and now you are definitely not going to apply after after this. But yeah, it's an important question. Yeah.
So, Shubham, last question.
Yeah.
Uh, what all things you had thought would be there in your MBA at Columbia,
Yeah.
and you found that, okay, it was not like how I thought about it? Good things as well as bad things, and something
Okay.
you would like people to know before they sign up for any B school.
I think one thing I would love people to know is that like things fall in place with time. Uh, in the beginning, there's a lot of frantic energy because
Hmm.
you're trying to make friends, you're trying to sort out your job, you're just trying to sort out life, and you may feel that you're falling behind in any of these aspects. But now, 1 year later, when I see all my friends, everybody feels so comfortable in who they are, which is actually so good to see. Like everybody knows these are my close friends, and everybody has their circle. Everybody is usually happy with their internship, or they're now gearing to go for second year to get that full time job. So that's something I've been really happy to know. I thought that I would have to change who I am uh, significantly. Like I would actually not significantly, but I've never thought of changing myself. Like when I
Hmm.
was in India, but go before I went there, I thought, okay, I had I need to do this differently, that differently. But you realize that you can just be who you are, and like people get attracted.
Hmm.
Uh, the other thing, we've discussed this previously. Ultimately, MBA is about careers. Like that's the main thing. So my advice would be to not see it as a place to pivot that easily. Like
Right.
that's a common theme. Unless you want to get into consulting or banking, then you still can, but uh, try to show in your CV those problem solving or communication skills. But if you're dreaming about a job in tech or VC or PE, then uh, try to do something similar in India, either through like a pre MBA internship or work for 6 months. Like that can go such a long way in them knowing that, okay, this person has done something similar before.
Right.
Uh, but yeah, that's about it. And like I said, I've not felt as homesick as I thought I would. That has been a great
That's
plus.
good. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's an exciting 2 years. It goes by so quickly. So I would want to see you there. Well, maybe I don't think you're convinced, but like if I had the option, I would love to do the MBA forever. I'm
Wow.
because who wants to work? Like you just want to travel and meet new people and chill.
Right.
So like
Hmm.
I highly recommend it.
Thanks a lot for sharing your insights today with all of us. And I'll see you in our next pickleball match.
I'll see you. You know, it's always been great sharing my wisdom with you. I taught you how to hold a racket. Today, today we discussed about the MBA. So yeah, this was great. Thank you so much.
Thank you.